Hi, Linda. Hey, it's Dawn. I wanted to kind of try to talk about layering a little bit. Um, the reason I like to use a catalog, recycled catalog, is because sometimes, the blank page can be fairly intimidating. Like you just got this white thing in front of you and you kind of freeze and go, oh God, what am I going to do with it? So for me, and this is not you necessarily, having a page with stuff already on it is sometimes helpful. Since you're starting, with pages that look like this, then you're going to want to start, doing some layering, which is basically going to give you this. But if you look here, I'm going around and adding some layering to my pages. I am not composing anything. I'm just picking up stuff and gluing it on the pages. So there's bits of old catalog. There's some page I played with some distressed inks on. There's a hunk of scrapbook paper, scrapbook paper. There's a piece of an envelope that I was playing with stencils on. Behind it, I glued on a white page I pulled out of a composition notebook. There's a piece of a digital sewing pattern, piece of vintage wrapping paper, some more page out of an old book, the front off of a vintage 45 record album, piece of old music paper. Okay, here's a piece of scrapbook paper that came in some Happy Mail from someone. Here's a painty paper towel, one layer of a painty paper towel that I had done. This one's got a little more layering on it going on, and some of it may get covered up, and then some of it will still be peeking through. So that's kind of where I go with my layering. Like, I stopped with this page because I was happy with it, and I wasn't happy with it because someone else would think it's beautiful. I was happy with it because it spoke to me. It felt good to me. And it's like, I don't care if anybody else likes my journaling or not, because it's really a really personal thing for me. So here's another page, where I've just glued on a piece of stationery. I folded over a page and glued it on both sides. There's a piece of paper sack I stenciled on, a little bit of an image out of a magazine I liked, and I'm going to keep layering over here and just covering everything up. There's some washi tape I pulled off of a package I received in the mail. There was a scrap of scrapbook paper from something I made. And, there's the front off of an envelope, a Christmas card envelope that I've saved for several years. And I thought, it's going in this journal. So it's glued here in the center because it's going to help strengthen my spine, which is what you're going to want to start doing in your composition notebook, because this whole notebook is just held together with that one row of stitching. And by gluing papers over this center here, it's going to strengthen your journal. And then as you turn it over and you glue these two together, then it's going to strengthen those two together, and you keep building upon that as you go through your journal. I do like to start, we already talked about gluing pages and starting from the front and going halfway, and then starting from the back and going halfway, so that because if you make all the pages go this way as you're gluing them, eventually you're getting to where you're gluing this really big hump right here, and a lot of people don't like that hump, so I have found that the way I mentioned to you to do it helps eliminate that hump in the middle. And then, you know, as you're working on pages and you get them wet with media, gel or Mod Podge glue or whatever, you know, don't go insane, but, you know, just, you know, gently kind of keep working the pages down so that over time, as you're working on these pages, you're encouraging them to lay down rather than do the little humpy thing that they're going to want to do. You see that right there, you know? Over time, we'll kind of work that out a little bit. So that's what I want to say about that. And I'm going to pause for a second, get some stuff together, and try to do a little bit of layering for you. Okay? Be right back. I wanted to show you a little trick that I do. So when your book is like this, and you know, you open it up, you've got this real hump that you're working on here. If you open it up to the middle and then swing the back around like that, so it's, you know, like this, and lay it out, then you have a little bit of a flatter surface to work on, and that hump really bothers some people, so I thought I would mention that. Now, I think that one of the most common things that people do when they start junk journaling, or when they start journaling period, is they overthink, or they think themselves to death, or they think themselves into despair or failure, or, you know, any number of things. So I want you to put all that aside if you have any of it, and just have fun. I like to sometimes, never all the time, but you know, sometimes things speak to you a little bit. I've got some wide masking tape, but you can use any masking tape, any tape, whatever you got. When I use masking tape, and a lot of people use a wider brush, this is just what works for me. I've tried to use wider brushes and it just doesn't feel right. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to do a whole spread, it really will work better if you do spreads which go across the page rather than half a page. So I put a little gel in here across the spine, and I'm just adding a little bit of gel, and then I'm going to lay a piece of masking tape over it. And what this will do is, one, it will strengthen the spine, and two, if we get any paint in here, it won't seep through the seam. That is a common thing that happens in junk journals, so one way to get around that is to use a piece of masking tape on it, or some sort of tape. But you know, Home Depot, roll of masking tape, you're good to go for quite some time. And you can fussy cut it with scissors if you want. I just tear it because in the end it's not going to show really. And there we go. So that's the way I like to start with my page. Now here's how much thought I have put into what I'm going to use for layering. Get my tape out of here. I had this folder of Happy Mail, I'll call it, that someone sent me. See, it's still in the folder that it came in. And I went through here and just picked out some stuff. And I didn't go, will this work? Or I just kind of went, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this, and I pulled a bunch of stuff out. And then I had some stuff already on my table here that I'm just going to add to the pile. So what I've got is a bunch of stuff like this now. You could glue these on here if whole, if that's what you want to do. Like, look, this is a bowling scoring sheet someone sent me, and you're like, well, that's kind of weird, but really all it is doing is adding some text and it's adding some layers, and what it does is it helps build up your depth of your art. So I'm just going to tear up a few pieces of that. Maybe I'll leave one piece bigger. There we go. Here's a little piece of fabric I saw, so I grabbed that. Here's, oh, this is a piece of a napkin someone probably used in a project, so I'm just going to tear that up in a few pieces. If you like shapes, you can tear shapes. Here's a cool little piece of paper. Sometimes, like, here's a little hunk of text. This is great. I like this, and I'm going to tear that up. Get some that are kind of not square shapes, but nothing wrong with square shapes. There's another piece of scrapbook paper with numbers on it, and I might leave a piece of that bigger. And here's a hunk of a magazine page, and I saved it because I like all the text, and that text, whatever it is, adds to your journal. So I'm going to tear off a hunk of that, and I'm going to take some pieces of it. And here's a page out of a book that I had taken apart to make an open book with. So I'm going to tear off a few pieces of that because I like the colors. Not really looking at what's on it, just like the colors. And oh, here's a page out of a rock and roll magazine, but I saved it because I like the colors. So rock and roll man's gonna get hunked up, and that's how much thought I put into what I'm going to use for layering. And I stick that to the side, and some of it as I pick it up, I'm gonna go, I don't like that, or it's not speaking to me, or it doesn't feel right. Here's a few more pieces. Others I might go back and dig for some more stuff. I don't know, but I guess what I'm saying is it's all good. How's that? Okay. Oh, here's a little piece. We'll save that. Here's a little piece. Okay, so I'm going to lay the pile to the side, and there's no right or wrong place to start. Wherever you start, you'll start, and off you go from there. So if I'm going to be laying down a bunch of stuff, I could just lay down a bunch of gel rather than trying to fussy glue these. And again, I'm using some extra heavy gel medium that I have. Just use whatever you have. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to glue right on top of my pages because I'm going to be covering them up anyway. So this is going to get a little sticky and a little messy, but when we get the page to a certain point, then just let it dry for a bit, and then you can go back and work on it again. There we go. And a lot of times I'm just going to lay that right there and try to make sure it gets in the seam real good. Let's see, this is tissue paper, so I'm going to put some gel on the page. And you might think, wow, this lady looks like she's doing first grader painting, and I am. But first graders do some cool stuff, and they have fun, and they're not so critical as we are, and so that's why I kind of like that concept, is just do it. Just be a first grader. Just have fun. Because if you're not having fun, you might as well not even do it. It takes away the whole joy of art for me when people get just so, pardon me, anal about their journaling. I'm going to grab my glue here. I just put a hunk on my page. And I'm going to put this over here. Why? I don't know. It just said, put me over here. So I'm putting it over here. Here we go. And you can glue down the edges a bit if you want. There we go. If you use matte versus shiny, it works better for like when you get to the point of where you're using pens and stuff on your work. But for right now, just use whatever you have and we'll make it work. Because that's what I'm doing. So now I got a piece of this text. Oop, I have some glue over here. I'm just going to throw it on the back because I don't quite know where I'm going to put it. And I'm not trying to add too heavy of a layer. You don't want to make a puddle if you can help it. Sometimes you do make a puddle, and that's cool. So I don't know, this kind of says put me right there. So I listened. I'm going to put it right there. Let's see what else we got here. So I'm just sorting through my pile. I got this. I'm going to put some gel on the back of him. And sometimes you miss a little spot or you don't get an edge, but you can always glue it from the top, or if something's loose you can go back and stick a little glue on it. See, that pulled up my paper right there. Well, big whoop. I'm just going to put that right there. And you don't want to overwork this paper, because especially your substrate, which is your composition notebook paper, that's really thin paper and it's not going to hold up to the wear and tear that you're going to put on it like if it was watercolor paper. So this piece over here where I had my glue pile for a bit, it's pretty wet. So guess what? I'm going to stick something on it. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back here. Mainly around the edges, I think, because I can't quite see where my glue is on my paper. And I'm just going to put that right there. And there's a little piece there. I'm just going to tear that off because I don't have any glue under it. And I see a little bit of glue here still, so I'm going to smooth that out. A little buckle there on my paper because it's wet, don't care. Yeah, I'm going to put another piece of this blue in here. Oh, then we have to put this piece of fabric in. Let's do that. If you can glue it and put it on paper, you can use it in your journaling. And I'm going to kind of over glue a little bit because there we go. Sometimes if you just paint around the edges with some gel, it sticks them down nicely. Don't have to. I tend to be kind of a goopy journaler, I guess. I'm just, okay, let's use this little piece of fabric. And then, you know, the pieces that you've been doing in your journaling are fabulous. And kind of what those are the focal points. You know, they're what kind of will bring your page together. So after we get done layering and scraping on some paint and doing some stencils or whatever, then when you can overlay your focal point on that, and it'll really pop out. So your focal point will end up being, you know, what brings your eye to focus on something on the page rather than being the whole page necessarily. But there again, sometimes your focal point is your whole page. You know, just it really is your style and what you like to do. And it's like, you know, I've taken a lot of classes and I've done a lot of, you know, YouTube stuff and different tutorials and things, and really I have not learned to make art like anyone else. I have learned a lot of good techniques that I will apply to my art, and that's really what it's all about. It's developing your own creativity from within. It's not, excuse me, like copying the kid next door, you know, so you color your page just like their page. Yeah, this is really all about you, your artistic expression. For me, my journaling is very cathartic in that it's very therapeutic for me, and I may not always explain what everything means to me, but I go back to my journal pages, and they're very emotive for me because of that reason. I'm going to just stick this on here. It's kind of a nice little piece of wajihujit that someone sent me, and it's kind of fun to get like Happy Mail in the, you might think, oh, that's an envelope of garbage, and it kind of is, but really what it is it's collage and background fodder. And so by trading some of your stash with someone else's stash, you get more stuff, more variety. Like in my junk journal group here earlier this year, we had a refresh your stash swap, and so the point of that was take cool stuff from your stash that you like and share it with other people, and then they share with you from their stash. So you get more bits and pieces of ribbon, and you get different pieces of paper, maybe some recycled items, and all of that just gives you more variety for your stash. I know when I started, it was really hard for me because I didn't have much stuff, so I would go around the house. Like if you run out of stuff, the inside of security envelopes that a lot of mail comes in, where they want to maintain your privacy, the inside of it has great patterns, and you can tear those out and use them. Those are a lot of fun. So I'm just gabbing and gluing. Gabbing and gluing. How perfect is that? Gabbing and gluing. Two things I do good. Gabbing and gluing. I'm going to think about that for a bit. So that's how my page is going to go, my dear. I kind of want to put a piece of this over here. It feels to me like it balances it out a little bit, but I don't know. Might work, might not. I'm getting a lot of gel on my page, so I tend to do some, let it dry, do some, let it dry, and that's just how I roll. I'm going to put this right here in the corner because it kind of has some straightish edges, and it'll kind of help me square up that corner. Oh, I like this. Let's put this on here. And I'm going to leave it in a big hunk. And I'm going to, let's see, what am I going to, I'm going to use a piece of wax paper because I don't want the front of this to stick to the fronts of those and pull things apart. Because you know how this paper is when you get it wet, it's on the fragile side. And kind of a lot of gel on here, but I'm just going to wipe a little off what I can with my brush. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. And pull that off carefully because my page is wet. And I think this will go. You know what? I don't know why I like to put things up to my edges. But if you lay things over your edges, you can just trim them off or rip them off later. There's no right or wrong way. Okay, let's put a piece of this page on. It has some nice color to it. And I'm going to use my piece of wax paper again. I use wax paper, but I reuse them and reuse them and reuse them, so Don't throw them away. I think I showed you one that I had used for, I had grabbed it, you know, in a moment of frenzy while I was playing with paint and used it for a palette, and so I just glued it on a page because it's color and shape and there's different texture and all the above. And I'm just going to kind of put that, I don't know, trying to, yeah, maybe that way. It's all said and done, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to kind of smoosh down the edges a little bit. You can press these down more if you feel like they need it. So I'm just going to continue like that until I get my page, you know, mostly covered up. One reason I'm adding layering to these pages is because even those pages are glued together, it's still fairly flimsy, not strong paper, and even if we ended up covering these layers completely up, they're going to strengthen our pages and help our journal withstand the wear and tear that a journal, that making a journal puts on the paper. So I'm going to call it good there for now, and start layering a page. Try and do a full spread if you can. Stick some tape over the middle if you want to. If you don't have any, just glue a paper strip over the middle. That works too. It's all good. Just get creative and use what you have. See you later. Bye.